What if you could silence the noise of the world and access inner bliss? What if you knew the shining formulas for overcoming the enormous challenges that every soul faces? Welcome everyone, I'm Shakti Durga. Mystery School Podcast, Ancient Wisdom for Everyday Life. We'll explore the ancient wisdom of the East and West, sharing stories and music, channeling light beings, scanning the unseen world, learning useful spiritual tools, and bringing forth peace, love, purpose, and abundance. In Mystery School, we co-create and share sacred frequencies, sending ripples of love that empower new possibilities to ignite our spirits, overcome obstacles, manifest our most inspired life, a life where your challenges become doorways to your deepest truth, where you anchor yourself in clarity and presence, not from your pain, but from the doors it opens into the deepest wisdom that's already within you. Your path has already begun. It's right beneath your feet. Let's illuminate that path together.
Hello, everyone. I'm Dr. Pat, and I'm joined here by the most incredible Shakti Durga. You know, this show is a show I've been looking forward to. I It's been a while since I've been on air with Shakti, but it doesn't mean that we're not connected. It doesn't mean that there's an energy and a vibration, and that's very important to remember right now. Today, we're going to be talking about Spanda, the music of creation. You know, vibration, energy, connections, tingling, whatever you want to call it. There's this essence of being, and that essence of being, we now know, even though we've always known, but somehow we needed science to help us know more or know better, that we're here. And the world of quantum physics maybe someday will catch up to what people walking the earth thousands of years ago, walking the earth today, have already known. But since drawing from quantum physics back in the 90s, there has been this growing understanding in science, and that everything is vibrating and all the time, and everything is energy. And boy, have I gotten a dose of that recently. But the mystics have always said, this is it. This is now. Shakti, such a great topic. Let's talk about this from your perspective. You've been traveling so much, you're
Yeah.
back, you've
Yeah.
touched so many different vibrations. So, How is this connectedly relevant? And even more than relevant, that's an odd word, but how is it super important for us to really work in this busy, thriving, living, dare I say, cuckoo times?
Cuckoo time. Yes, indeed. Well, everything, as we know, has a vibration. But what's really important in the doctrine of vibration is what we choose to do as our response to any vibration that comes towards us. And that's really where the empowerment through vibration comes into force. And in the Eastern mysteries, in the Vedas, they talk about Spanda. And Spanda is the energy that we ourselves generate, that is, it's everything's divine energy at the end of the day, but it's how we put our energy into the creative unfolding of what's coming towards creation,
Mm.
towards humanity, towards ourselves. So it's not so much about whether the energy of the world is a bit crazy, because pretty much it always is in one way or another. It's just, is the crazy up loud, or is the crazy turned down a bit lower than normal? But there's always the good and bads going on all the time. But just as a story, Dr. Pat, you might find this interesting, but I was recently in California, in Northern California, with a group of the most amazing people. And a lot of them were very concerned about what's happening in America at the moment, about the great divides that are happening all over the place.
Yeah.
And there was quite a bit of fear in the group. And I came in as an outsider, from Australia. And as I always do, I tuned straight into the earth. And what I felt in the earth wasn't so much about how crazy behaviors are in other parts of the world or America. What I felt was that the earth felt abandoned
Yeah.
by these people who were usually so conscious that they were always interacting with nature and nurturing nature and lifting, but they'd got lost in their own personal fears. And those fears were starting to seep into the earth, and that there was a great deal of their own spanda that could be used to transmute and transform and create something
Mm.
better out of the primer materia of what's coming at us from life. But and it's just human. And so what we did for several days is we spent time cleansing the fear that had gone into the earth from people who were usually so conscious and so onto everything, and helping maintain the vibration of the earth as was done by the indigenous people of the past, and as naturally happens at sacred sites. People go there with reverence, and they venerate energies there, and so those places are naturally very clean and pristine, and amazing miracles can happen at those places. But everywhere is capable of consciousness. And
Yeah.
it was just really interesting for me to perceive how quickly the earth responded. And I really wonder what would have happened, because the first night I was there in Northern California, there was an earthquake. And I was literally woken up rocking in the bed. And of course, I'm Australian, that doesn't happen. So it
I
was very
know.
strange.
I went to
But
school there in California, and I got to tell you, the first time that happened, I grew up in New York in the Bronx, and I thought I was on a subway. I actually thought I was dreaming on a subway, that I was on
yeah.
a subway until I tried to walk. But
Mm,
it wasn't that a fascinating experience for you?
yeah. Well,
Oh.
because the first night was the earthquake, and I didn't feel frightened. I actually felt that the earth was speaking to me and saying, "Could you just tune in, please?" Because I got to
Mm.
say, I wasn't actually tuned in. I was jet lagged. And then and then I had to, then I did tune in, and I went, "Oh, okay, I can see what's happening." Yeah, and so that can have a bad, that can affect the natural world,
Yeah.
and the natural world going out of balance. I mean, yes, we should be practicing clean water, clean air, and clean soil. We absolutely should be. But at the same time, when everyone starts having the vibrational reality that they all are putting out, that the world is doomed, that we're going to fry, then this fear is a vibration. It goes out into the mass consciousness,
Mm.
and instead, what I would like to see is that the people who are aware of spiritual principles start to transmute that energy instead of adding to it. And it's hard when you feel it so deeply inside yourself. You're angry about it. There's things going on that you think shouldn't be going on. And that may very well be. And what am I doing? Am I
Yeah.
adding the conflagration of fear energies going out onto our planet? Or am I using the internal fire and divine that I have to actually suck it up and transmute it, and to put forward a vision of peace into the world? And that's the power of Spanda. So it's the
Mm.
difference between, it's like Rumpelstiltskin, he
Yeah.
was spinning in the straw, and he was spinning it into gold. So that's an ancient Western mystery teaching story. And what he had to do was find the name, the correct name. Remember, the queen only got the gold if
Yeah.
she could get the name. And so it's saying we have to utilize the divine names. We can't do it ourselves. And so whatever your spiritual path is, there'll be divine names, whether it be Jesus, whether it be
Yeah.
Durga, whether it be medicine Buddha, whatever the divine names are, that you call on those divine names and you ask to be assisted in the raising of your vibration in troubled times. That whatever it is that you can see, whether it's shootings, whether it's political things that you don't agree with,
Mm.
whatever it might be, that it's not about just adding your voice to the conflagration, um, because that's what our
Yeah.
ego wants. But
I,
if we're truly here as spiritual citizens, who have, the integrity and the maturity, we really need to be doing our work in transmuting, so that the vibration lifts. And it only takes a handful of people who are assiduously doing the transmutation, to make a real difference in what the potential outcomes could be.
yeah. My spiritual mentor who passed in 1999, what a blessing. One of the most unlikely people I'd ever meet. This is a woman, high desert of California, lived in California, lived in Sebastopol up there north in California. And when I met her, she had been taking people on a vision quest for 30 years. She wrote one of the first books on ceremonial circles here in the United States, right? That wasn't written by a native indigenous people. And we worked together, and I had not had any exposure to any of that.
Mm.
I mean, I had a sense of things, but being out in the desert and with the land for 10 days and facing every possible fear on the planet through snakes, rattlesnakes and fuzzy bees. But there's a lesson we learn. And, let's fast forward to where we are today, because what you're saying is so perfect.
Mm.
We've launched a 20-year vision that we had to wait for. So what should you focus on? So here's the thing. This is practical world stuff I'm about to say right now, and you're going to help. You're going to help
Yeah,
everybody listening.
it is the practical world stuff. So if we put our attention on that which is divisive, we will become further
Mm,
divided. One of the things that I've made a practice of doing, and it's sometimes I've got to force myself, is to listen to both sides of the news, for instance, because news has become very party politics,
yeah.
and one side supports this party, one side of the media supports the other party. And so if you listen to accounts of the same thing, you get a totally different account of what happened. And being a lawyer, one of the things we were always taught was go to the source documents, go to the source documents, because there is a lot of confabulated internet content at the moment. There's a lot of things that
It's a
are
great word. Confabulated. That's a great
confabulated.
word.
People just put together. They can use. We know now, even on our phones,
Yeah.
you can alter photos. You can do all sorts of things yourself, just as a rookie. Let alone when people are really intending to sway us to different opinions
Mhm.
on any side of the fence.
Yeah.
And so we get put into fear so that we will accept what this side is telling us is real. You see what I mean? And
I,
so
d- I
it all
do.
hinges
Let
on
me ask
being.
you a question. This came up, and I don't know if you're aware of this, but this is to your point. We had people that wanted to join our network from Canada.
Mhm.
Now, I don't understand the relationship between Canada, UK, Australia, any of that, but they told me that they couldn't on any of our conscious channels on our new TT. And I said, what do you mean? They said, because you have the word news on your site.
Ah,
And they said, we're not allowed to listen to or watch any news in the United States. And I got to tell you, I was like, what? How are we going to come together? It, I know you're, but to your point, when a country makes that statement, where are you leaving the ground to come together?
that's right. Yeah. And if you control the news, you control opinion, right? But it doesn't mean that it's true. And so, yeah, if one feels very passionate about an area and that passion is putting us into fear, my suggestion is that you don't just avail yourself of the usual sources of information that you go to, but that you get a spread of information from all different sources, even ones that you would say you don't like, so that you can see what all sides are saying. And in that, you might thread together a narrative that makes a lot more sense than it looked like when you just saw one side of it. Either side doesn't matter. And the vibration is fear. And that's the
Mm,
vibration that we're being fed all the time. And it puts us in separateness, and we become fearful of the other side. And it's like the rocking of the boat gets more rocking, or the seesaw starts, really, really going. And what the only thing that can bring that back together again is people who are determined to find some common ground, to find
mm,
some middle ground in anything, whether it be people of different faiths or people of different nationalities or different political persuasions or whatever it might be,
mm,
uh, because the vibration that we then encounter is a vibration of communion or unity. And just to think about it, there is two teams on the inner world as well as the outer world. There's two teams. One team is an angelic team. You might want to think about the archangels, for instance, or great ascended masters, luminaries that are not physical, they're metaphysical. And they're trying to pull us upwards into unity and into peace. And then the other team, you might call them asuras, as they're called in India, or the Christians call them demons, are beings that are trying to pull us into separateness. Now, the ego naturally agrees with the voices of separateness because it's always trying to keep itself safe and, be in control. And that's exactly what the forces of
Yeah.
separation wants to be in those states. So there's a bigger play going on, and the play going on between the forces of communion and union and the forces of separateness. I don't even want to call it good and evil because that gets too loaded.
Yeah.
Simply, are we going to listen to the voices that make us go into separateness and fear? Or are we going to start generating another dialogue or another energetic output whereby we start weaving together things or even holding a vision of where we would like things to be and putting our energy into that? That means we've transmuted something negative that's come in that might have put us in fear. And then we add our love and our faith. And then what we do is we open to a higher potential. And that is important work for everybody at the moment. And if we can do that in conjunction with our normal spiritual practices of whichever path or faith we are, then we'll be doing something really important and praying for outcomes that bring everyone together.
Yeah. Let's talk about consciousness for a minute because it's interesting. We named one of our channels, our business channel, Conscious Business. It's been interesting, the feedback. And so I want to talk about consciousness from where you are in the vibrational part of that. And what that means when we witness this or we sense it or have an experience. And people would say to me that they don't know what I'm talking about. And yet my sense is maybe we don't know what the word consciousness means,
Yeah,
but surely each of us has had a moment.
exactly. I mean, it's as simple as with conscious business, um, if one's employees are going through a difficult time, do you say, well, it's not my problem, get on
Mm,
with your job? Or do you say, tell me about it? Is there a way
hmm.
I can, you're being conscious of the inputs to your business. And let's face it, when I was at university doing an economics degree, workers were seen as inputs. They were
That's
inputs
right.
to production,
I
and
forgot that.
yeah, that's right. And so it's like that's unconscious. That's not having any consciousness of the people in our life. Whereas if you're an employer, maybe you employ a few hundred people, it can seem hard to be listening to everybody, but there's companies that have made great progress by having a suggestion box or a request box and being able to listen to what the requests. Some requests that have come in companies that I know about, my back aches, can you get me a new chair?
Yeah.
You know, imagine every day being at a job where
Yeah.
you 9 to 5 in a chair that gives you a backache, which no one's listening. That sort of thing. So consciousness can be as simple as maybe someone says, "Look, something blew up in my car. I'm juggling work and childcare. I just need a loan of $500 so I can get my car fixed."
Yeah.
No, these are the things that make us a compassionate employer. It's conscious business when we're conscious of the people that we're employing and the people we're doing business with. That it's not as cut and dry, just as how do we make the most money. And what you normally find is that an act of kindness brings such loyalty and such it raises the morale of everybody, and miraculous things can happen in the organization because people know that they're cared about.
Yeah.
So that's an example of a
I
vibration,
love it.
yet the vibration becoming stable at a higher vibration of literally consciousness, being more conscious of what's going on for everyone around the place, and being able to bring the heart consciousness as well as the mind consciousness together.
I want to ask you a question. I'm a bit older than you, so I've been around during these times, Woodstock. Okay, I don't want to go into a lot of details about my youth, but I was around at these movements and I was part of large groups and the gatherings and the praying and the chanting and getting together. I do believe that changed the world.
I do
I
too.
do believe that. And I do believe we can do that again, maybe not that way.
I agree. And sometimes the changes that happen societally are slower than we'd like them to be. And we think that our efforts aren't doing anything. But the amount of energy that holds together a culture or a society, there's an enormous amount. And changing it, you've got to just remember that change can happen instantly on the inner world, but there's a time lag between when it then percolates to the outer world. So, whatever we're doing to change things at the moment, the time lag will mean that it will happen. And so that's why we've got to encourage the spiritual people of the world to not buy into the fear and to hold a vision of how they want their culture and society to look, and don't get too bothered by all the noise. Just hold your vision that we honor everybody, and we're kind to people, and we find a place in society for those who want to be in this society and who want to work together to make the culture a great culture, that sort of thing.
I love it. There's a movie coming out here worldwide, and it's Wicked. It's the second part of Wicked, which is The Wizard of Oz. But there's a little tagline that if you're not like aware of it, you miss it. It's Wicked for good. So the whole
Wicked for
Wizard
good.
of Oz things, which was so demonized, right?
Mm,
Here's a new perspective. See,
mm.
this is what we're talking about in pop culture land, where they've taken a story that was so demonized. So let's talk about today. What can we do to now bring this forward for people in your message with us?
I think it's just to notice when your personal vibration starts to sink and you go into fear.
Mm,
And the first question you have to ask yourself is, this is apparently true, but it may not be true. And if there's nothing I can actually do about this thing, I am not going to add my energy of fear. I'm not going to respond in fear. Instead, I'm going to suck it up, use your breath, and I'm going to say, I see the future being like this. And you just literally use the energy to put something else out through your Ajna chakra as a vision for the world. You just take a minute to do it and then get on with your life. Cut, let it go. And don't be sucked into all the sensationalism. That would just help us all so much if we didn't keep adding to the divisiveness.
because the more fear we feel, the more
Yes,
fear we'll get, the worse it gets. It's
correct.
like an
The worst.
accumulation without it's like this floodgate opens.
Mm.
And
Yeah,
without what you're talking about or knowing what to do about it,
yeah.
it will continue, won't it?
Right. So we need our spiritual teachers and our healers and people to be helping people to transmute these things instead of saying, "Oh, isn't it awful? Aren't they terrible?" Go, well, that's what appears to be happening. Let's just let's not add to that fear energy, and let's do what our dharma is, because everyone has a role to play in everything. Certainly do what's yours to be done. But if it isn't yours to be done, if it's happening in some other part, then just go, well, I'm either not taking that on, or I'm certainly not going into fear over it.
Yeah.
And I just hold a vision of how I think that things could be. And it's powerful. Results won't happen straight away, but you just have no idea how much your own personal choice in vibration can affect the collective, and how powerful we actually
Yeah.
are beyond what we know. Yeah.
And to your point, that inner shift that we make and the transmutation within ourselves, that does happen immediately. That's really
Yeah.
the blessing. Now, how do people find out what you're doing, how you've opened the doors of what you've created for all of us to understand how to transmute, transform,
Yes.
and become
Yes.
leaders?
We'll be doing that starting on this weekend. We have Laws of the Soul, which is something I've been teaching about for 20 years and haven't taught it for a while. And we'll be looking at the different laws, including the law of vibration and how it affects us. So,
Mm.
shantimission.org is where you go to find information about what we're doing. There'll also be retreats and other programs coming up in the new year as well. We're going to India, looking at joy and how we access joy on a retreat about joy in India in March. So there's some great stuff coming up. And also, you can tune into any of the resources on my website, shaktidurga.com, where there's a lot of free content. and things that will help you to uplift your spirit and to transmute. A lot of healing tools on that website.
Thank you so much for this. This is a perfect message. It's such a reminder of how powerful we truly are.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
yet, right?
Yeah. Yeah. And just the feeling in the group in Northern California after we went, oh, yes, we have given our spirit to fear. Let's clean it up. And we did. In 3 days, we'd completely
Mm,
transmuted it all. And you could feel the joy bubbling in the earth that's right. Here they are. They're back again. Our carers are back. They're caring about
yeah,
us again. And everybody felt
yeah,
really purposeful in it and reset. And that's what we want for
yeah.
all of us.
Thank you
Yeah.
so much for this. This was perfect. I want to thank you all for tuning us in and turning us on. There's so much more. Please, please check out what Shakti Durga is doing, because this is how we change our.
Thank you for joining me for Mystery School, Ancient Wisdom for Everyday Life. Be the detective of your spirit and soul and seek the doorways to a new reality. Take one insight from today and let it illuminate your path. Visit shantimission.org to learn more about our other programs, meditations, and resources for living with ease and grace. And sign up for our free Soulful Relationships Masterclass. In this class, we'll cleanse and purify the relationship energy in a key relationship in your life. Previous students have experienced rapid transformation in their marriages, in their relationships, with family, work colleagues, teenagers, just from this one practice. And you'll have a spiritual key to successful relationships that you can use again and again. Sign up for the free masterclass at shantimission.org. And we'll be back at 3 p.m. Pacific time every first and third Monday for Mystery School. Mark it in your calendar. We'll see you next time.